Hello and welcome to Monkey Knife Fight Live. Folks, I'm Connor Rowntree, and you know what it means when you see AJ Schullo. It is a UFC breakdown. But something though, folks, it's a special card. It was supposed to take place in Liverpool, as you can tell from all the fine British folk on the card. So the prelims are actually starting at 1:30 Eastern time, and the main card will be getting underway at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. AJ, welcome to the show. What are you excited about for this card? Because, oh my, there are some bangers.
Outside of the fights themselves, I'm really excited to have brunch during the fights. That is awesome. That is something that we haven't been used to lately. It's just been a lot of late cards. I'm sure that the folks overseas will enjoy an earlier start time here. But yeah, we got a great card from top to bottom. We got a lot of fighters that are from that area, from the United Kingdom, from England and all over there. That's where this card was originally supposed to take place. Got moved over here. We've had some bout cancellations in the meantime, but still 10 fights, still a high-level main event. And yeah, we've also got some really intriguing prospects on this card. There's not just one or two, there's a few. So excited to dive into those matchups.
Well, let's dive right in right away with probably the most exciting prospect on the card. It's Paddy Pimblett making his UFC debut. I mean, what a firecracker. This guy just said, I was watching his media day. He was like, I'm going to get Dana White in a headlock. I'm going to put my opponent Luigi in a headlock, and I'm going to get them all in a headlock all at the same time. And I'm going to get my money and make sure everyone knows who I am. Just one of those sparkling personalities that's really breaking onto the scene right now. Lots of fans coming in behind him. AJ, what do you like about Paddy's game, or what don't you like about Paddy's game? And how do you see this fight playing out on Monkey Knife?
Yeah, what I like about Paddy is he's an aggressive grappler. He knows what he wants to do. He has process to his game. He's not a great striker, but I like that he wants to keep his distance to kind of leverage his length and throw kicks on the outside. Doesn't seem that comfortable in the pocket, but again, he's never been knocked out, so I trust his durability. And he wants to get fights to the ground. That's his bread and butter. A very good submission grappler, floats very well in top position, and he's a submission threat. And so I think he has potential here to take Vendramini down early. Don't really know anything about Vendramini's takedown defense. There's no footage of it whatsoever. Based on his offensive wrestling, I lean that Paddy could take him down. Paddy's certainly not a bad wrestler, single legs, clinch-based takedowns. And from there, he could run a dominant round of control or get a stoppage. The concern that I have from Paddy is I do think that Vendramini, while he's not a great striker, I think he's a better boxer than Paddy. And I have seen Paddy slow down on the regionals. That's probably the biggest concern I have in his game. It's all fine and good to think he can get a quick submission, and that very well might be the case. But if he doesn't submit Vendramini early, there could be a chance that he goes out there and just flat out gasses. Vendramini, not a cardio machine, but we saw his last time out against ZM. To his credit, he really had a lot of urgency in there in that third round. And that's a nice thing to see as a fighter that can maybe, win down the stretch. So, I actually do think Vendramini is a live underdog here. I'm not uber confident in him because he doesn't have a high ceiling in the UFC. I don't trust his wrestling. He's not a high volume striker. And he's a guy that I feel like needs a big moment to really win a fight. As we saw in that fight against ZM, not a good wrestler, not a great, particularly striker. And so his path to victory is kind of limited.
On that fight against ZM, how did you score that one? Because I had ZM winning the fight, but I didn't think it was a mixed decision. I thought ZM kind of really outclassed him in that one. And I don't think going into this fight against Paddy, I don't think he's feeling too good about himself. So I think you got a key there. I think the wrestling is the key to it. But as far as the fight goes, I mean, how do you see it playing out on Monkey Knife Fight, AJ? I think it's a tough one to go for more and more, especially when it's a kind of going to be a grappling versus a striking kind of side, which usually results in the less side of things. But 46 and 65.5, those are pretty nice little touches there. AJ, how do you see this one playing out?
So I'm going to boldly side with the over just because, if this was significant strikes and not just total strikes, I'd definitely be with you. But I could definitely see when these two guys are tangling on the ground or in the clinch, even I could see just some sort of pitter patter strikes in there. And I do kind of think that this fight plays out. I do think Paddy is dangerous, but Vendramini is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And so I do think we kind of see this fight extend, and in which case it kind of raises the floor there. So neither guy's particularly high volume, but I just based on the fact that there should be a lot of control here on the ground, some scrambles, potentially some striking exchanges. I am going to side here with the fact that it goes over on both fronts.
Yeah, and Vendramini, folks, has been into the second round in two out of his three UFC appearances. Pardon me. So I was on the fence with that one. I actually didn't really understand. That one is so tough for me That one is just honestly one of those ones where I'm like, darn, I just want to watch the fight and see a good scrap. So it's the more and the more on Monkey Knife Fight, folks. That's what AJ likes. And we like AJ over here on MKF. That's why we always invite him back. So make sure you select more and more, scroll down, select your buy-in, and hit submit. And you're in to win. No Patty. He's got like Justin Bieber. Imagine Justin Bieber flow on a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Like
Patty Pimblett.
Like Paul McCartney.
Yeah, right? Doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. I could see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. He actually looks like he looks like Ringo Starr there with the nose is beat up. I guess that's why it maybe looks like Ringo's. But anyway,
absolutely.
It was more and more on Monkey Knife Fight, folks. And we got another exciting fight coming up next. I really am high on Tom Aspinall. I think Tom Aspinall really is kind of the future of this division. If you haven't seen him fight, his most comparable guy in the division right now would be Cyril Gane. They've got those big bodies and they strike with the Muay Thai striking. They don't fully bring up their bodies all the way up to the 265-pound limit, and they like to carry it around 250 and use that weight around. I think this one is going to be a Tom Aspinall show. Spot Check is a great fighter, but he's a very durable fighter. But Tom Aspinall, he's got the speed, he's got the hands, he's got the movement, and he's got the reach. I like Tom Aspinall in this one. AJ, how do you see the fight playing out?
Yeah, I like Aspinall. I don't particularly love him, though, just because there's some questions about what his cardio is like if the fight extends and what his defensive grappling is like. Really haven't seen a test since the regionals. Spivak, not a great wrestler, but he comes from a combat sambo background. He has landed some takedowns in the UFC. So it's an unknown nonetheless that we might see addressed here. We might not. But I'm going to actually go with less and less because I think what we most likely see here is Aspinall is just a better striker, better boxer specifically, faster hands, more power, better mobility. Like you said, he's one of the more mobile heavyweights, kind of like Cyril Gane, as you pointed out. And I think he probably gets a knockout here. The risk is if the fight does play out, because Spivak is generally durable, like you said, then we could definitely see an over here, especially on the Spivak side. He does throw a lot of strikes. As a boxer, he's got some solid volume, but even as a ground and pound specialist, he throws a lot of volume there. Round 3 of the Felipe fight comes to mind where he almost 10-8 or where he did 10-8 him, almost finished him. So I'm going to go with less and less because I think Aspinall gets a quick knockout, but I could, again, I'm going to be sweating that entry, when it goes past the 1.5 round mark.
Yeah, I'm going to actually go more and more on that one. That's just how I play it. Aspinall lands over 7 significant strikes per minute, and I just think they're both going to stand for that first round. I think it's going to probably be a second round finish. I like Tom Aspinall. I like the knockout pick. So I'm with you on that one. I just think these guys are both going to go more and more because, man, like in that Felipe fight, like Spot Check, like he's got a chin on him, man. So I see him eating the shots. I see him maybe trying to mix in some takedowns, as you alluded to, but I have the more and more just because of the durability from these guys. So, folks, we're split on that one, but go down, make your selections, and you are in to win. I'm going more and more. AJ's liking the less and the less on Monkey Knife Fight, but we're both fading the Tom Aspinall knockouts. It's just at a different time. So maybe keep that in mind for later because we're going to talk some knockout kings. Select your buy-in, folks. Hit submit, and you're in to win. We got the main event next. I love Darren Till. Folks, AJ sent us a text earlier, and it is probably the funniest picture of all time. It's Darren Till, Mike Perry, Hazmat Shemaev, and they're holding Hasbullah, the baby. And it is a hangover reference. And if you follow Darren Till's Instagram, you would know that this is one of the most eccentric, outgoing, loud, bombastic fighters there is in the UFC, if you will. AJ, how do you see this fight playing out? And yeah, what do you like about Darren Till? Actually, let's start with that. What do you like about Darren Till?
He's a very polarizing fighter. He just draws people towards him. His personality, the way he carries himself, his confidence is very intriguing. And there's going to be love, and then there's going to be hate. I am one of the people that admires Darren Till, his fighting style, the way he carries himself. And he is a draw. That's why he gets these main event fights and why he has really solidified himself in the middleweight division, moving up a weight class, getting a big fight against Kelvin Gastelum. That shows what the UFC thinks of him and what he thinks of himself. And split decision or not, being very competitive with a guy like Gaslam, being very competitive with a guy like Rob Whittaker, says that he is truly a top 5 guy in this middleweight weight class. He is not just a guy that got by at welterweight because of his size and power. No, he's legitimately a very skilled striker, excellent technically. He's a methodical range striker. And I think this is a bad style matchup for Brunson, to be honest with you, because when I picture Brunson trying to get his game going, he's going to try and close the distance, get the clinch, because that's where he gets most of his takedowns. But when doing so, he leaves himself open to countering opportunities for Till, where he's so precise. Till's not the most varied striker. He mainly likes to throw his straight left, but that should be enough to, catch Brunson on the way in. Doesn't do the best job of setting up his entries. And we've seen Brunson hurt multiple times in the past. Adesanya, Whittaker, knockouts. Also, he was knocked out by Souza, but then there's even fights where he doesn't get knocked out, but he still get hurt, like against Ian Heinisch in round 1, Kevin Holland, round 2 comes to mind. Holland almost had him out of there. The issue with Holland was, well, one, he couldn't defend the takedown or scramble up, but when he hurt Brunson, he lunged into him after hurting him, and it forced that clinch opportunity for Brunson to get the body lock and recover. And Till won't do that. Till just will want to keep his distance and pick him apart. So I'm going to go under on both, because when I picture the fight going, I think Till just gets a quick knockout. Again, if there is concerns about his injuries, the layoff he sustained, I'm just going to assume that's the best Darren Till we've seen. He's 28 years of age. There's potential he can get better, and I think he gets a quick knockout here.
Yeah, see, that's what a lot of people, I think, are overlooking, is that when Darren Till came into the game a few years ago, he was extremely young, and he made that huge run. And then he got dominated by Tyron Woodley, took a loss, and then we've only seen him 4 times since that, and that was in 2018. So I can understand why there's a lot of question marks surrounding Darren Till, but I think you hit the analysis right on the head. He is so accurate with his striking. He has got so much pop in those punches. And look at the elbow that he was able to land and drop Robert Whittaker with in his last fight. Able to go to distance in that one. So I don't see his cardio being as big of an issue, but I'm completely with you. I don't even think it's going to matter. I have less and less on Monkey Knife Fight. I think it's going to be a Darren Till knockout, probably in the first round, because Brunson's gotten a little bit chinnier with age. As we've seen in some previous fights that you alluded to. I don't think this is going to be a case where it's been the up-and-coming prospects like the Edmund Shabazians, where they're in it a little over their head. This is where Darren Till belongs. It's the upper echelon, and I think he knows what's on the line here. Israel Adesanya and him have been going back and forth. He wants to put on a show. I think he goes out, gets a knockout, and calls for his shot at the title. So I think that's a pretty good alluding into the knockout kings there, but let's make sure that we get the folks at home with the less and less. AJ and I are riding the less and less and the Darren Till knockout. Scroll down, select your buy-in, and you're in to win. After you hit submit, that is. All right, Jason, may you please take us over to the Knockout Kings? Boom. Yeah, we just got it. We might as well get into it because we just said it. Darren Till, please pop him in there, pull him up, and sit him down. Yes, I have Darren Till in my Knockout Kings contest. I'm just already talking, and I mentioned it in the last fight. Tom Aspinall, that is my second pick, and then I'm going to throw it to AJ for a third.
I'm going to go with Charles Jourdain. He's facing Julian Erosa, who's been knocked down 5 times in the UFC, been knocked out 5 times professionally. And Jourdain does carry a lot of power. He's an unpredictable striker, and what I'll say with the Knockout Kings for this week, last week we really honed in on a select few amount of guys, but in a week like this, I feel like there's a lot of different options that you could kind of sprinkle. I made my entries prior to us jumping on here, and there's a lot of different combinations where I do think that there's a lot of guys that could legitimately get knockouts because they have knockout power and they're facing opponents that have shown questionable durability in the past. So I think the 3 that we gave are very, very capable of doing so. I think all 3 of them come through, but that also there's other options that, we may or may not get to that I think are also intriguing.
Well, let's just talk about those other options to give the people at home a little bit of a look. I think one of those other options is Khalil Roundtree. That fight, I'm not sure who's going to get knocked out in that fight, but someone's going to get knocked out in that fight. Both those guys average less than 2.5 rounds per fight in the UFC, and there's some power in there. And when it's a southpaw going up against, southpaw going up against orthodox, you usually see them literally toe-to-toe, and there's some big clippings happening. So I'm going to lean towards Cleo Roundtree because of his last name.
Yeah, dude, and he's one of the guys I was referring to, Cleo Roundtree. He didn't knock out Prachnio when that seemed like the obvious outcome, but he did hurt him in that fight. And Khalil, he still's got power in his hands. And Bukauskas, not the biggest fan of his striking defense. Chin is high, throws naked low kicks in the pocket. He's been knocked out cold on the regionals, and he was knocked out by Jim Crute. So I think while the fight is early, while Khalil has some gas in the tank, he will have opportunities to clip Bukauskas, and that could lead to a knockout. So I'm right there with you, man.
Perfect. Was there one more knockout king pick that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, there is actually. One is Marc-Andre Barriault taking on Dalcha Lungiambula. And I don't necessarily think he's going to knock out Lungiambula with one big shot. I suppose it's possible. Not to the extent of, say, like, Charles Jourdain that we talked about, or Aspinall or Till, but it's the accumulation that Barriault brings. He's a very high-paced guy that will get in your face. He's got good cardio. And Lungiambula does not have good cardio. He was gassing there against Marcus Perez in round 3. He's just a very densely muscled and explosive guy. And it's no surprise that, that style just is draining on your gas tank. And we've already seen Barriault in 2 consecutive fights exploit guys with vulnerable cardio. And so I think Barriault could pour it on Lungiambula late. Lungiambula was knocked out by Ankalaev. Don't think he has good striking defense. That's in the stats at 43%. And Barriault does have power. I mean, he's coming off 2 fights where he earned 2 knockdowns. So I think from a volume accumulation standpoint and from a pure one-punch knockout threat, Barriault has a couple different ways to get a knockout in this fight.
Wow, that was awesome. Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think he's got the opportunities, and I think it's the cardio being the question mark. All right, folks, those were some great options in the Knockout King contest. And yeah, this is going to be a fun card. That's what we were talking about going on. There's some great prospects on the card. So make your selections. Remember, to get into win your share of the $2,500 in the Knockout King contest, it's a minimum $5 entry. So make sure that you keep that in mind and make sure that you do the minimum $5. Hit submit and you're in to win. AJ, before we go, any other best bets that you want to look at for this fight night between Darren Till and Derek Brunson?
I would like to shift our attention over to the Jian Kim and Molly McCann fight. I think this one is very interesting stylistically and just from a pure prop perspective, if you will, over under. I do feel like Molly McCann has a clear path of victory in this fight. She's not a great wrestler, but Kim defends takedowns at a rate of 42%. And when she has been taken down, she's struggled to scramble off of her back. So I feel like if McCann, if she comes in with the right approach, she could just win a round on control. I also think that despite the 10-inch reach disadvantage, she's the better striker. I think she throws with more power, has better defense, head movement specifically, more mobile fighter of the two. Both ladies are extremely tough. This fight seems very likely to go the distance, and both throw in high volume. So I do like the more and more for this fight because the stats say that it's likely to hit. And even if it's on the ground, again, going back to our logic with Pimblett versus Germini, if it does hit the ground, you could mix in some ground strikes in there as well. Neither is great defensively. They absorbed more than 4 significant strikes per minute in their UFC career. Kim will have opportunities to land with her reach, but McCann will also have opportunities to land. She's a fighter who has averaged or landed rather more than 100 significant strikes in her UFC fights where she hasn't been taken down more than once. And Kim has no takedowns landed in the UFC. So I just think conceptually, the more and more makes a lot of sense. And I think conceptually, if McCann comes in with the right game plan, she could win this fight rather comfortably.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome that you did that because I had the more and more on that fight too as my second fight of my best bets. So I'm really glad you hit that one on the head. And I think Molly McCann, I think she grinds out a win here and she really shows us what she's made out of with the spotlight on her in that prelim slot on Saturday afternoon, not Saturday night. Another one that I want to touch on with another more and more, Jason, could you go to the David Zawada and Alex Morano fight, please? Because these two guys, they both average over 10 minutes of octagon time per fight. You want to talk about poor striking defense? Neither of them have great striking defense. Alex Morano, we saw him pour it on against Donald Cerrone his last time out. I like the more in this one. I think these guys are going to stand toe-to-toe. I think maybe Zawada tries to sneak in a takedown, but if he feels uncomfortable on the feet. But I think these guys are going to throw some strikes, and I'm pretty comfortable with the more on this one. AJ, how do you see this one playing out?
I like the more and more as well. Moreno just fights at a high pace in general. He encourages the opposition to have action. And that's kind of what we saw in the Race McKee fight. I know McKee is a longer fighter than him. To to a large extent, 6 inches of reach, a bit taller, but Zawada's a bit longer than Morono as well, 3 inches of reach, an inch taller. And Morono absorbed 124 significant strikes against Rice McKee, landed 176 of his own. He didn't land as much against a guy like Pettis in a fight that went 3 rounds because Pettis is just a much more athletic fighter. It's a completely different matchup. But I tend to agree with that. Both should go over because it very well should take place on the feet. Both average less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes. And I think in a fight that's contested on the feet at a high pace, we could definitely see that cash with relative ease in a fight that seems likely to go the distance.
Yes, and the fact that Moreno lands over 5 significant strikes per minute, like he's going to pull that fight out of Zawada. So I really like the more and more on that one. That was kind of my that was my sweetest one. And then I really like the Molly McCann one too, and you already touched on that one. So Jason, if we could get a little more and more on that one, please. Bam, bam, scroll down and hit submit. Now, something that I did last week that I just want to do, Jason, can you go over to the main card, the Star Shootout? I played the rapid fire last week. We didn't talk about it on the show, but they usually have one rapid fire contest for the 2 for 2. Go right. No, it was right there. No, next. No, back. Then with significant strikes. Yeah, right there. Perfect. Well, not with significant strikes. So last week, and this one hit pretty nicely, folks. So we just talked about Alex Morano, and we talked about how Derek Brunson was going to go low. So, and you get the advantage with Morano. So for me, folks, when I see that, that is a smacking green light there. And then you have the Paddy Pimbleton one. And AJ said it. He thinks that one can go long. And I think Bustakis is going to get knocked out by Roundtree. So, again, for me, this one's a pretty nice one. It pays 2.5 times. It's just a simple rapid-fire contest. The guys are going toe-to-toe with the strikes. So I like Morano. I like Pimbleton. AJ, any notes on this one?
I think what you said makes a ton of sense. One of the ones that this wasn't the rapid fire contest that I was caught my eye the most. The one that was more intriguing to me was actually taking Shore with a bonus of plus 1.5 strikes over, or fantasy points rather, over Tom Aspinall, and then Modestas Bukauskas with taking Darren Till over Modestas Bukauskas, despite Bukauskas getting 7.5 points. So I think with Till, with our logic of he's likely to go out there, get a quick knockout, whereas, Bukauskas could legitimately lose this fight. And with Shore, my logic there is, even though I do think Aspinall gets a knockout, I think by just playing Shore, you get a little bit of a bonus, but also I think that Shore has many different avenues to putting up a big score. He could grapple, he could finish, he could just dominate this fight on the ground as the biggest favorite on the card. So while I like your selections, it wasn't exactly like the place I was looking to firsthand.
Well, it's just fun to mix in the rapid fire contest. I just wanted to make sure that we did it this week because, hey, it hit last week and we had a pretty good showing with that one last week. But yeah, as I said, with the other rapid fire contest that I touched on, it was solid. I think yours, because Jack Shore's in it, will be in the all day rapid fire when we were looking at the main card. Yeah. Let's see if we can just find it. No worries. I tried to put it in the chat for you too, but there it is. Bam. There it is right there. So that's what AJ just broke down for us, folks. So it was Tom Aspinall, or was it Jack Shore? Sorry. No, you like Jack Shore, and then he liked Darren Till with the quick knockout. Bang. And remember, first round knockout. Yeah, it's 2.5 times on Monkey Knife Fight, those rapid fires. And it really I really like the rapid fires because it makes the fight so exciting. It's like, hit him one more time. Hit him. Okay, don't touch him. Anyway, folks, it's so true, though. Come on, tell me that you're never sitting at the edge of your seat doing that. Oh, goodness. Oh, that one's gonna haunt me forever, folks. I'm gonna get out of here before Jason gets any more dirt on me and tries to lower my pay. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Monkey Knife Fight Live. That's AJ Schullo from AJ MMA Betting. Make sure you follow him along on Twitter at AJ MMA Betting, and you can find him at ajmmabetting.com. AJ, thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next week. Anything that you want to add before we go, before this card goes?
Awesome time shopping up with you as always. Got a bet posted for the event. All my premium content is on my websites. And yeah, looking forward to sweating the fights with you guys.
Perfect, folks. That's it. That's us. That's Monkey Knife Fight Live. I'm Connor Rowntree. And remember to hit it hard.